Welcome to the Theological Family Ministry Podcast, a podcast for parents as well as children and youth ministry leaders. We are dedicated to showing how theological study and biblical application relate to the discipleship of children and youth. As always, we're hosted by Pastor Ben Palaz, the pastor of family and children's discipleship at Curtis Baptist Church in Augusta, Georgia, and Tony Trusoni, the family and student pastor at Faith Family Church in Finksburg, Maryland.
Good afternoon, Ben. How you doing today?
I'm doing fairly well. It's a little bit rainy here, but the weather is not hot anymore, so that makes it more enjoyable. How about you?
Doing well. The weather has been rainy here as well, and I think we're going to get some rain on Halloween actually as well. Which might not be as fun for a lot of kids in this area. So.
Yes, that's true. I haven't looked at the forecast for Thursday, but we're expecting some more rain at least tomorrow. So we shall see.
You know, the place where we often get toys for our kids, it's this time of year, it's surrounded by the Halloween outfits and all this Halloween decor, so you kind of can't divide between the toy area and the Halloween area this time of year. But for our kids, we have some birthdays around here, so we have to kind of go and navigate the toy aisles this time of year. And where do you get toys at for your family?
From the grandparents.
Okay.
we really have not bought a whole lot of toys for our kids with regularity because we've been given so many things and grandparents, and so now we're at the point now we've given away some things, and we've also let's do an experience gift, this kind of thing. So
yeah. Well, when you've been to stores, how does the toy aisle look different from how it did, you think, when you grew up?
Maybe there's more volume. I don't know. I was actually in a toy section the other day looking for something for our children's ministry, but I was not. I was looking for one specific item, so I don't know. What I mean, you frequent it more, so how does it look different to you?
I guess so. Well, one thing that used to be done, especially at Target, a place we go sometimes, is there used to be kind of a boys and girls area, and somewhat designated by that. And in fact, actually, the boys area used to be kind of overly macho sometimes, even years ago. I was looking it up, and one of the most popular series of toys in the late 80s or early 90s were some action figures based upon some movies that would surprise you. There were Terminator 2 action figures sold to young children, as well as Rambo action figures. And now I don't think that kind of stuff is sold to boys anymore, right?
Probably not, but there's the new Terminator movie, so it may make a comeback.
Maybe. Well, now I think we've kind of gone to the other extreme, and now it's kind of all mixed in, and even SNL kind of commented on how we're doing toys nowadays. There was a skit a few years ago called "Wells for Boys," advertising a new toy product for boys, and it was quite interesting.
I didn't see that.
So that kind of brings up the topic, really, of raising up boys and whether or not there's any difference, whether or not we need to get them Rambo toys or whether or not we need to get them a Well toy. And I think one of the perfect people to talk to about that, actually, we've been blessed to be able to talk to today, Ron Rudd, who's a friend of ours and repeat guest on the podcast. And he's the men's ministry and family ministry pastor at Metropolitan Bible Church in Ottawa, Ontario, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, wonderful. Well, we're glad to have you on today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you guys.
Well, we kind of wanted to start off, Ron, and again, we're so glad to have you on this episode. We want to ask, how have you been since we last talked? And I want to hear if there's anything new with your ministry, perhaps even anything that might bless people from afar with your ministry.
Okay. A lot has happened in the last 20 months. My ministry changed 20 months ago from being involved in children's ministry specifically for 18 years as leading our kids ministry in our church to men's ministry and family discipleship ministry. So there's been a big shift in my responsibilities and what I am doing now. And that part has been a new road to walk on, as well as our family has been thrown a curveball, and we've had some new challenges that we had not expected. But we grown in our dependence more on the Lord, and it's gone deeper, both as a result of my job and as well as my family. So both of them have caused more seeking His face and His good pleasure. But when it comes to how can I encourage people out, far and wide, I think that might come through our time today as we talk, and we'll see where that goes. I have some good resources I can recommend and encourage, and hopefully that'll help.
Wonderful.
Yeah, well, and Ron, thanks for your humility, just talking about that, having to grow in your dependence on the Lord, and even just mentioning as it connects to your family. And so I think that's encouragement to people, just as they experience the difficulties of living in a fallen world themselves. So Ron, how has your emphasis on men's ministry in particular impacted your discipleship of your own sons as they were in the home?
Well, that's a great question, Ben. My first response is that I started men's ministry here in the church when most of my sons have moved out. I have been doing, as I think you're well aware of, I have 10 kids, 6 biologically and 4 adopted. 5 of them are sons and 5 of them are daughters. My sons are my older of the group, and all of my biological sons have moved out of the home as of now. So I would say, how has it affected my view today? One of the things is I try to stay very connected with my boys and making sure I'm still spending time with them, encouraging them, challenging them. And they're thankfully very well connected to my wife and I, and the sons that I have seek our advice to things that they're going through as their parents, even though 3 of them are married and have 9 of our grandkids now. So we are grateful to the Lord that they want to still be connected to mom and dad, and that they're still seeking counsel with us. We have a monthly birthdays for our entire family, and 24 of us get together at a time when we have those birthdays. And so we're still wanting to be family connected and being able to speak into their lives.
Praise the Lord.
Okay.
That's good. Before I ask the next question, by the way, I have to say, so it was neat. I was on Facebook and I saw some photos that you posted recently. And this is you're the only or second person to be asked on twice on the podcast. And the other person is Chap Bettis. And I saw a picture of you guys getting to spend some time together, which was kind of cool. Small world, in that way. So
have you met Chap?
We've talked to Chap on the podcast a couple times, yeah, and I met him in person as well.
He's a winner.
Yeah, he's great.
One of the resources that I'd be recommending later.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, we really enjoy it.
I love him.
Yeah, great stuff. So, anywho, what are some of the differences you have observed between discipling boys and girls in the home?
That's a great question, Tony. I think one of the things that I see the difference in discipling them is the way they respond to the information. My sons, for example, if there is part of the discipling process, there's a discipline issue that has to take place. My sons seem to be able to take the discipline and get over it, and when it's all done, said and done, they're ready to move on, and Dad, you're still a good guy. And there's not too much farther to explore on that. With my daughters, it's a whole different level of emotion that has to take place. And the time involved is much longer. And in conversations that we have, my daughters will talk for an hour about something. My sons will talk, it's okay, fine, good. And the conversations are usually much shorter. And so when we're working on the area of discipling them, we have to sort of pry the sons out more. And the daughters, we need to figure out how to ask questions that might be more specific so they can answer more clearly and not drag things out for the whole evening.
That's good.
Yes. So, Ron, what does this look like in each stage of life? Does it change with time?
Yeah, I definitely changes with time, and definitely the type of conversations that we have will change with time. I would say the first thing I would say about stages of life with our children is to make sure you love them at every stage, and you have time for them at every stage. And don't buy into what our culture says about the terrible twos or the whatever they want to say about our kids at different ages. We can enjoy them, I believe, at every stage and every age. And I would say enjoy your kids at every stage and age, love them deeply, and that will be helpful. For me, one of the best books that I read early in my parenting of my sons was Robert Lewis's book on Raising a Modern Day Knight. He talks about the stages and how to celebrate each stage with your sons as you move them into manhood. And one of the things that I did that I feel was a direct result from reading this particular book was to take my sons individually around their 13th birthday on a father-son trip anywhere in the U.S. or Canada that they would choose. And we'd go away for a week. And on that trip, we would talk with them about what it means to move from childhood into early manhood. We would talk about 4 areas that Lewis refers to in his book as the authentic man rejects passivity. The authentic man accepts responsibility. An authentic man leads courageously. An authentic man expects greater reward, that is keeping his eyes on the better or the long-term reward from obeying God's word. And then we would talk about things like sex and pornography as well. We just felt like it was a time that we would be able to talk about all subjects, but it was just dad and one son, and being very intentional about giving instruction at that stage. We felt that at that time with my sons, that was a critical turning point in stage of life, we felt, for them. I think it's probably a little earlier now with the way smartphones and internet accesses have happened. I think we need to start some of those talks probably a little earlier with our sons today.
That's good.
That's good insight.
Now I'm curious, what are some of the places that your children decided to go for that kind of thing?
That's great. We went to the Alamo, San Antonio, Texas, with my third son. He is a big fan of San Antonio Spurs, so we took in a game down there as well. And we went to see the Alamo because that was one of his history favorite spots. My first son, we went to Washington, D.C., and spent a week there in the middle of March, and they had the greatest snowstorm in like 50 years while we were there. Wow. That we had to work through. But it sort of like cleared all the streets, so everything was empty when we were there as a result, and that was fun. Went to Anchorage.
You guys are
Alaska.
used to snow.
That was before I had snow. I lived in California when we took my oldest son to Washington.
Oh.
So we had no snow in California where I was from before. So, no, I wasn't used to snow yet.
Okay.
We went to Anchorage, Alaska with my third son. My fourth son is into hockey and sports. We went to the Hockey Hall of Fame in Toronto, and then down to Ohio to some of the Amish country and see how they do and build some wood furnishings, because he's into woodworking like I am. And my fifth son we did full circle, and that he went to Washington, D.C. as my first son. So that's Washington, D.C. twice, and 3 other interesting and fun places to go.
That sounds really special. So now I do want to ask, with this idea of raising up men, do we ever assume cultural ideas of masculinity in the church over biblical ones, especially as we raise our kids? And can this be dangerous in raising up our future men?
Well, Tony, you know me well enough, I think.